Okay, so yesterday was Wednesday. Yesterday was Wednesday, today is Thursday. So yesterday was our last day, and we went back to Dublin. We had a whole free day in Dublin, so we left, where were we last yesterday? Where were we yesterday?
Dublin?
No, before Dublin.
Galway.
We were in Galway, and so it took about, I think, 3 hours to drive to Dublin. So I just derped around on the bus for 3 hours. Then we got to Dublin, and we just had free time until it was time for dinner. And so last time I was here, we went to a leprechaun museum, and I thought it was so much fun, and I learned so much about Irish legend and folklore that I thought it would be a good idea to go again. And so I found it on the map, and I brought my friends there, and I was super proud of myself because I didn't get us lost. And so we went, and the next tour was at 2:30, and it was 2, so we're like, okay, we'll just go to the little shopping center next door. So we got our tickets, went to the shopping center, walked around, jerked around for a while, then came back. And so when we got to the leprechaun place again, we went in. There's just this little welcome room you go in after you pay, and it's roped off, so only a certain number of people can go in. And it's little pieces of things about leprechauns. So there was a thing of Lucky Charms to show how America represents leprechauns. There was a little set of leprechaun clothing. There were movie posters, lore, manuscripts of legends and that kind of thing. And so then our tour guide came up, and he was the manager of the place, which was really cool. And he was really excited because there weren't any children on our tour, so he could go all dark, and he cussed a lot during our tour because he could. He's like, I wrote the tour and I don't even remember it, so I'm just gonna tell you what I know. And he was one of those guys, the way he talked, you could tell that Irish folklore and especially leprechauns and stuff about the Shay, which are the fairy people, was his passion, and that's why he made he was the manager of the museum. So he told us a bunch of stories. A bunch of them were very sad, and yeah. So when you first go in, you go into this room that's a tunnel, and it's an optical illusion, so it looks like you get bigger and bigger and bigger at the very end, or smaller because you're supposedly turning into a leprechaun. Because on the other side of the tunnel, you go through a little tunnel. That's another one that the ceiling is shaped like the Giant's Causeway, which is in Northeast Ireland. And so the Giant's Causeway, they have legend that it was built by giants, but it wasn't. It's a volcano erupted, and the way that the lava dried was in hexagonal blocks, and yeah. So we supposedly went under that to get to a room where all of the furniture was huge, so you felt like a leprechaun, and you gotta climb around and be a leprechaun for a little bit. So they had a couple a table, a couple kitchen chairs, a sofa, a side table and a lamp, that kind of thing. So we climbed around and were silly, and it was very difficult because everything was huge, but it was fun. So after being in there for a while, we went through a fireplace, and and then we just went to a couple other rooms. One was the rainbow room, the rain room. We went through one room that had the pot of gold, and so they talked about the pot of gold. And then we went through another room where there was a wishing well, and he explained the history of wishing wells because the Irish people thought that wells were a portal to another world, because supposedly the Shay, the fairy people, live in the underworld, underground, because the Gaelic people in the Shay battled when the Gaelic invaded Ireland, and so when the Gaelic won, they claimed the upper part of Ireland, and they gave the lower part, the underworld, to the fairies. So they believe that anything like a tunnel, a well, anything that goes down is a portal to the Shay people. And people still worshipped them and believed in their power. So that's how wishing wells became a thing, because they would send offerings down the well for them. So then after the well, we went out into the gift shop area, and I was like, hey, this is kind of weird, but like, can I video you telling me a story about leprechauns? And he was like, well, that is weird, but sure. So I got a story for you guys about leprechauns. It's a cute little story. Yeah. After the Leprechaun Museum, we went and just walked around Dublin. My friend has been looking for these shoes called creepers for like the entire trip, and she's found them in a couple of places, but they were like €90, €100, and she was really upset. But then we were just walking, and she's like, hey, we should go to that shoe shop. And so we did, and she found exactly what she was looking for €40, so she was super excited about her creepers. I don't really know how to explain them. Look them up. So we found the creepers, yay! We just derped around Dublin for a while, got to the buses at 5, and then we drove to our hotel, and we had our farewell banquet, which was just, dinner in the hotel. Wasn't anything exciting. And then we adventured around our hotel. We were in a hotel called the Regency, which apparently is really old, and apparently it's haunted. So if you see anything around me, it's because the place is haunted. And so we adventured around the hotel. We kind of went in places where I don't think we should have been. We went down into the basement and went into their catacombs, I guess you could say. And we were caught, but the guy looked like, it was a common occurrence. So whatever, YOLO. I didn't just say YOLO. Don't what? Anyway, so we got caught. Oops. So we were like, we should lay low for a while. So we went back to one of my friend's rooms and just go fish for a while until about midnight. And so it's travel day round 2. So it's 4 in the morning right now, and we're gonna leave in about a half an hour. So yay, traveling. Goodbye.
Story of a man called Tom Fitzpatrick. Tom was out walking one day, and as he was out, he was walking by a field, and he heard this knocking, tapping sound. And when he looked through the bush, he saw a little leprechaun mending his shoe. So Tom reached through and grabbed the leprechaun and pulled him in, and he started shaking him like that. And he starts saying, "Bring me to your gold, bring me to your gold." And the leprechaun eventually, when he catches his breath, he's like, I can't take you there. So Tom continues to shake him, and he's nearly killing him. And the leprechaun finally agrees he's going to take Tom to his gold. Now the thing is, the leprechaun, you can't put the leprechaun down or he'll just run away. So Tom has to carry him. And they're walking for ages. They go through a field, over some hills, through a marsh. They're walking for hours, and Tom's exhausted. And eventually they arrive at the edge of a wood. And the leprechaun says the gold is buried underneath this tree. Of course, Tom hasn't brought a spade with him. So he's there trying to figure it out. He's like, what am I going to do? He says, I put you down to go home and get the spade, you're going to run away. So he says, right, I'll let you go if you promise you won't remove a sock that I tied to the tree. So the leprechaun agrees, and Tom puts him down, the leprechaun runs off into the woods. So Tom takes off a red sock and he ties it to the tree, and he sets off home. Again, back through the marsh, over the hill, through the fields, gets home, he's exhausted, grabs the spade, heads straight back again, hours. It's the middle of the night when he arrives back to the forest. And as soon as he gets close enough, he sees the leprechaun has tied a red sock to every tree in the forest. Needless to say, Tom was very disappointed, broke the spade, but he took all of the socks and brought them home with him. So you can never get a leprechaun's gold. You can never get a leprechaun's gold. Even if you do manage to get it, it's always said that the next morning it will have turned to leaves or acorns. So they're very tricky little things.